Oh, you're recording? Leave meeting. I do not accept that.
Welcome to Just One Song. My name is Kurt, and with me tonight, Adam Orozco and Leandro Barrientos. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Buenas noches.
Hey, I'm here, and I'm ready to start the show.
Well, good.
Whoa.
Hello, Just One Song. Hello, everyone. Kurt has a giant pug as his background on our Zoom meeting right now.
Yeah, maybe we should start releasing the videos, huh?
Ooh,
I might as well. You're recording it too.
I should. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have the video. It'd be good for our YouTube.
That's a thirst trap. That's the only issue. It's like we are all happily married men,
Oh yeah.
and we don't want them, quote unquote, thirsty people, because I'm not gonna, we attract all, and we don't want that on our conscience.
No, we don't. That temptation.
Ooh.
The last temptation of Christ with Willem Dafoe. Apparently, you see Willem Dafoe's hog in Antichrist, which is the second movie that he's been in with Christ in the name. But he's in this like horror movie or existential horror movie where he like fucks a tree, and you see his little Willem Dafoe, his little Green Goblin.
I heard it's not little. I've heard it's.
I heard it's fucking like redonk.
It's like not even like. It's like a very open secret in Hollywood, apparently.
An open secret. That's Hollywood's the worst.
Oh.
Speaking of entertainment being the worst, what are we talking about tonight?
We're talking about entertainment. Ironically enough, because that's what this podcast is about.
What do you guys know about Led Zeppelin and the Stairway to Heaven case?
I know that you're not allowed to play it in a guitar store. The song, that is.
Oh,
That's true. But why not? Why can't you play that though?
Are we talking about like the cultural guitar nerd?
Why is there a taboo around playing that song? Like, it's a joke, but why is it?
From the perspective of like the dad rock TGI Fridays happy hour, I want to get a rockin' electric guitar. You're not allowed to play that song because it's like the creme de la creme of all rock songs. But we're talking about legally why you're not allowed to play that song.
Well, yes, but that lick particularly is because it's annoying, right?
True.
Yeah, everybody used to play it all the time.
Because it's easy to play, right?
Chromatic descending A minor.
There you go. So the case, Leo, what do you know about the case?
The band that filed a suit against Led Zeppelin, specifically Robert Plant and Jimmy Page, was Spirit, I believe. And they alleged that they had toured, I think, in the early 70s, late 60s in California. Mm-hmm. And because of the proximity that they were, Spirit was opening up for Led Zeppelin or vice versa, that Spirit had a song. I can't remember the name of the song off the top of my head. Taurus. The constellation or zodiac sign. They allege that Jimmy Page ripped that A minor descending chromatic line, horn progression, which is not unique to Spirit either. I mean, listen to bossa nova or any kind of Latin jazz or any kind of like classical chamber music. That shit's all over the place. It's
hundreds of years old.
Oh yeah,
it's been around forever.
It's very old.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the extent of what I know of the whole debacle. And Led Zeppelin didn't lose that case.
No, that's the good news with all of this.
Yeah.
Which, say what you will about Led Zeppelin and plagiarizing, this is the one case that I'm really glad they won, which, for instances, we'll get into. So the song Taurus by Spirit was written by Randy California. And Randy California, that's a stage name.
Thank God.
His parents named him Randy California.
Well, so during his life, he died.
Anthony Kiedis just nutted his pants. What's his
But
name? What's his name? What's his name now?
Randy Craig Wolf. He died in 1997. He drowned off of a beach on Molokai in Hawaii. But he had addressed how similar the songs sound. So it's the opening riff, the Stairway to Heaven, and it's the bulk of Taurus. He was not upset that the songs sounded similar. Apparently, from what I've read and heard, is he really, really liked Stairway to Heaven because it's Stairway to Heaven. His estate holders sued Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin.
Those money grubbing,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
selfish, non-creative. They didn't write the song.
Who's name of the lawyer who sued, who led the lawsuit?
Fucking Johnny Arkansas.
Nah, dude, he's got like it might as well be like Lex Luthor. What's his name?
Well, Randy California.
Francis Malfoy.
That's
Dude.
It's a Harry Potter villain.
Dude, he's become notorious for taking on rock bands and artists, and he's the rock star lawyer. But I was working for Warner Music Group at the time, at the height of this case, this lawsuit, and so it's really kind of. We're sitting with the lawyers that are still in the office and the legal assistants and whatever. I was working in legal, and we were watching the case unfold, and it was just funny seeing him trying to plead his case. And all the judges, it was an en banc court, which was 12 circuit court judges in the state of California, no jury, 12 judges hearing the whole case, and they were like chewing him out, and they did not like him. He's essentially he was like the ambulance chaser of entertainment lawyers. They lost. Spirit lost because what they ultimately decided was, like you had been calling it, A minor descending chromatic chord progression. It's not something that can be copyrighted in the first place.
Yeah.
Some things they look at though are like substantial similarity. You know, are the songs substantially similar? And yes, that opening sequence is very similar to the entirety of Taurus. But if anyone who's ever listened to Stairway to Heaven know, that is only like the first fifth of the song. The whole thing is huge, crazy. It's a big production. So Led Zeppelin won, which was actually very, very, very good news, not just for Led Zeppelin, but for the creative world in general.
Can we take a minute just to remember where you were and what age you were the first time you heard Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven in its entirety? Because that's a very magical time for me, and I would assume for anybody else that's heard, it's a wonderful song.
I was 14 years old in my guitar teacher's studio. He was teaching me the song, and I'd never heard it before.
Sit back, you little wuss. I'll show you what real guitar playing is.
I learned it in 2 weeks. It was awesome.
No.
The whole thing?
The whole thing.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at you.
You're a phenomenal guitar player.
I'm pretty good. I don't know, phenomenal.
When the few times we've jammed, I've always been like, oh damn, this guy's fucking better than me.
Adam, where were you when you first heard Airway to Steven?
I was in my room. I was probably somewhere around like 10, 11, watching Wayne's World. And yeah, that was the first time. Oh yeah, and then I went
entirety?
No, well, that's the first time I like heard it, and then after that, it was like, oh, now I have to hear it. Then I went out and bought the sheet music, and unlike you, I just put the sheet music right into my closet and never looked at it again after that. So yeah, that was fun. You know, I did learn the first couple of chords, and then that was it, though.
Yeah, we do have to let our listeners know that Adam, Kurt, and myself, Leandro, are a little bit older than what mainstream media music consumption is right now. So if you heard a song and you really liked it, you either A, had to bribe your parents into taking you to Virgin Record Store and buying you the CD, or B, wait for it to come back on the radio and tape it off the radio.
Or more modern, when I started finally having control of my own money, you had to spend 99 cents or $1.29 for a song that long online, and you're like, this is the future. And now we're paying like $6 a month for all the music ever made ever, which
right.
if you're not taking advantage of that and you love music, you're messing up. You're really messing up.
It's very not a big cost for the amount of joy and just all around wholeness it brings to your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so many just so many music communities have been brought out of the being able to do that. You know what I mean? Like everybody's able to make their own music and go on these platforms as well, and it's just
well, exactly like you just said, it's never been easier to make and release your own music as well as listen to it. And so that's actually kind of the crux I want to talk about tonight too, Adam. You hit the nail right on the head there. When it comes to Led Zeppelin, the reason that case was so strong is because it restored integrity to creativity.
Oh.
So there's been a couple of cases recently. Adam, what do you know about the Blurred Lines lawsuit?
I know that they lost because who's the main guy?
Pharrell and Robin Thicke.
And
Robin Thicke.
Ugh.
Yeah, well, that's why they
about him.
lost. Is because Robin Thicke, he was just a douchebag on the stand saying that he was doing drugs and that they were listening to all these records.
So Robin Thicke more or less recused himself. In a statement, he had said that he really had nothing to do with writing the song. What happened was there were murmurings going around with the Marvin Gaye estate that they were saying that Pharrell Williams, who is credited for writing the song almost entirely, had plagiarized Got to Give It Up by Marvin Gaye. And so what happened was Pharrell Williams, he started the lawsuit himself. He was trying to get ahead of it, trying to protect himself. But here's the thing with the copyright laws. I think Got to Give It Up was released in the 60s. And all copyright laws prior to 1978, for the 1976 copyright laws we like to talk about in Robert T. Garden's class, was anything before then, copyright law only protected sheet music. So during the lawsuit, the jury could not listen to either version of the song because song recordings could only be protected after 1978. And because Got to Give It Up was released in the 60s, it didn't follow those laws. So they had to go on paper to show the difference, which you'd think would be an extra strength for Pharrell Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Right. They asked Robin Thicke, and he said, he literally said, I was high. I was doing drugs, and I was on, he was on all these crazy drugs while he was recording it.
Designer drugs from Hollywood.
Man, we could do a whole episode on Robin Thicke and just...
That's a vibe. That's a genre of musicians, trust fund baby musicians,
dude,
from Hollywood or that are descended from money. The Strokes apparently are trust fund babies.
No, don't tell me that.
As much as I love the Strokes and I love This Is It, and they're this great band, but credit where it's due.
Well, Julian Casablancas, his father is
or Albert Hammond Jr.
No, he's a modeling agent. He works for a model. He's in the industry. I mean, same thing with the band LMFAO. Red Foo's father is Berry Gordy, the king of Motown. So there's nepotism all around, and Thicke's father's Alan Thicke, but
I mean, when you're around the best musicians in the world, or you're able to be around the best musicians in the world when you're growing up, I mean, what else is there? Even at average, you're still going to be the best average player around, and you have connections. So
I mean, most A-listers are like that in music and in film. Tom Hanks is related to Abraham Lincoln. I mean, that's just he is.
Is he? No, he's not.
Right.
And according to some in our population, is drinking baby's blood, and staying young with that sweet adrenochrome.
So that's the secret, huh?
So Tom Hanks' great-grandfather is Timothy Hanks, abbreviated T. Hanks. He's the founder of Gratitude. No. That landed well. It landed well, but your face didn't.
I'm appalled. I think we should put the video.
Come on, that was good.
There's a bigger conversation here as far as plagiarism goes, because it seems like all of the lawsuits and all the court cases that get pushed to the forefront are always going after like money makers. Like
Right.
you never hear of people going after a producer from the Bronx or Cleveland
Right.
that had a song that, oh, I want to go after you for, you know, the $25 you made off that beat, which brings up the question too, because you brought up sheet music. There's a whole history and like spoken, passed down history of music that influences music. You know, what's the line between influence and plagiarism? And the law,
homage and plagiarism.
and that was Pharrell's argument, right?
And
it's more of a homage.
Do you disagree with his argument? That's what I'm going to ask.
I do not disagree with his argument because there's entire genres that are predicated off of a feel, you know, like a genre study of like I was listening to the Spinners the other day, and I made a playlist of bands that sounded like the Spinners, and everybody was not necessarily copying each other, but there was elements to like that doo-wop style where you're going to go from the 1 to the minor 6 to the 4 and the 5.
Leo,
everybody was doing that.
Legally, what can be copyrighted in a song?
The song is copywritten at the point of its inception, I believe.
Well, there's intellectual property, yes, but what can you actually copyright with the U.S. copyright law that is protected by law within a song? Because drum beats are not copyrighted. The amen break is a perfect example of that. What are there's two elements of a song that can be physically copyrighted?
Kurt, I'm going to let you take this because it has been over 5 years.
Adam, do you know?
I think it's what you can copyright the composition itself and the melody, right?
So that's the recording of the song. You can copyright that, yes. You can own the rights to the recording. But within the song itself, you have ownership of the melody and the lyrics.
Yeah,
and they have to be in a tangible means of expression. Here's the thing with the Blurred Lines case, and whatever I'll talk about Robin Thicke and what that song is about out the window. Musically, the judge in the case decided no, he didn't plagiarize the lyrics or the melody. They're similar, but they're different enough. That isn't why they lost. They lost because the judge decided that the songs were substantially similar. Nothing else was in common, but they sounded kind of similar, so they lost the case. That's a very dangerous precedent they set, in my opinion, for creativity because of exactly what Leo was just talking about. If you can lose money and you can't own rights to your song because it kind of sounds like another song, homage or otherwise, I think that really, really limits creativity in the music industry.
I mean, retroactively, you can go and say entire genres like 12-bar blues. They're all sound the same.
But
EDM, 4 to the floor.
There you go.
Yeah.
But see, the thing though, you can't copyright a chord progression. That's part of why Led Zeppelin won. But substantial similarity.
We're talking about the Robin Thicke case at this point. And that I remember talking about this in Teagarden's class and how it was a scary precedent that was set as far as like, and I think it is willful and unconscious. Like it doesn't matter if you do it willfully or if you didn't know it, like if you didn't know that you were ripping that off, you can still get.
You're right. I think the frustrating part is the objective elements, the lyrics and the melody, things you can actually write down, we're not matching. The subjective elements, the things that were up to an individual who is not required to have any sort of musical background or experience, which this judge did have some, but it wasn't his like primary specialty. Or even the jury, they're not screened to be musicians. You know, it's up to the lawyers to plead their case, and it's up for them to get the musicologists in. But if you can't listen to the songs, that's kind of tough too. Yeah. But the fact that it was the subjective element that decided the case, 1 out of 3, that bothered me.
Well, for law, I mean, to plea to emotion, that's pretty much what that is like you can make a case if you had enough time and you had a 2 songs that didn't really sound similar, you can make a case and convince a jury of their similarities if you're a good enough lawyer.
Oh yeah.
because you're at that point you're pleading to opinion and emotion rather than objective, like these are the lyrics, they match, this is the melody, it's in a different key, but it's the same, it's the same intervals.
So it also depends on how I think it depends on how you're going to plead the case. In the case of Pharrell Williams, he would have to appeal to the objective side of it. Look, the melody and the lyrics are not the same. I made sure they weren't the same. They are different on purpose. And then the other side has to go, okay, but they kind of sound the same. He's obviously ripping off Marvin Gaye, which is what they did. I disagree. I think it was homage. And I know they claimed that Pharrell Williams had committed perjury by saying in an interview that he was kind of modeling the song based on works like Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
But not one specific song. And that's the thing, too, is the Marvin Gaye estate weren't claiming that he just sounded like this one song, Got to Give It Up. Oh, that was the main one they cited, but multiple songs. So they were looking at his entire catalog, which if you know anything about Marvin Gaye, he's a huge cornerstone of an entire genre of music.
American music, yeah.
Oh, American music.
Yeah.
He wrote for Aretha Franklin. He worked with Sam Cooke. He was
every sexy scene ever in any movie, Marvin Gaye music in the background.
If you're going to even think about that genre, you're gonna hop into some Marvin Gaye territory.
Oh yeah.
And now we were just shown it's dangerous to look at it, you know.
Which is a stretch, but I can't. Okay, so can you copyright a recipe? You know, and that's essentially what you're doing with this music foundational elements. Like you're copywriting the recipe. You may not have put it together in the same ratios, but you're following roughly this recipe to make chocolate chip cookies. My chocolate chip cookies are gonna have salted caramel in it, and I'm gonna put oatmeal, and I'm gonna put orange rind in it to make it a little bit different than a traditional chocolate chip cookie. Oh, but you're still gonna get in trouble because you made chocolate chip cookies.
No, you're gonna get in trouble because you used Toll House chocolate chips. The ingredient is copyrighted. The cookies aren't. They don't. They're gonna, because you're looking at the Toll House site for the ingredient. They're gonna say use our chocolate chips because we have copyrighted the ingredient and the formula for this specific ingredient. But the cookie itself is not. That is not. You can't copyright it. I see what you're saying, but there's elements.
Topic too. It's like it's the commodification of pretty much everything. It's like the conglomerate commodification of you can commodify cookies, and we're commodifying music too, and turning it into something where it becomes abstract and no longer the like folk passed down heritage cultural tradition that's been. I mean, that's what it is for the last 2,000 years. Yeah. And we're turning it into a commodity.
Yeah.
Well, here, what do you guys think about this? I mean, like we were talking about earlier, there's so much music going out there. It's never been an easier time for people to get music out there. How are people going to keep up with, oh yeah, he copyrighted him. You know what I mean? Or he took that song from me. They took that song from me. You know what I mean? If there's so many songs that sound so similar.
I think that's in digital metadata. Like all of your songs are now MP3 compressed files that have zeros and ones. And if your zeros and ones look a lot like these other 0 and 1s, there's an algorithm that tells you, hey, we're going to flag you for copyright. I mean, that's how YouTube, that's how YouTube does it. Like YouTube has, they have like farms of people that will go through and look for videos that have copyrighted songs, but they also have an algorithm that says, so if you want to get past the YouTube algorithm or the Instagram algorithm, what you do, and you want to use Hell's Bells by AC/DC, you take the audio, you slow it down by 10%, and then you use that audio, and the algorithm can't find it because it's out of key and it's out of the BPM.
Exactly.
Perfect segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about. How are you guys familiar with Adam Neely?
Sounds familiar.
Bass player from New York.
Oh, the YouTuber, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
I saw him
Adam
at NAMM.
Neely, his YouTube, if you're familiar with his YouTube channel, shout out to a person I'll probably never meet.
Right.
It's purely educational. I mean, it's entertaining, but it's educational. He's a bassist with synesthesia. He's a terrific jazz bass player. He's always gigging in New York, and I love seeing his stuff and his Q&As and whatever. But he actually got into trouble with doing that, slowing down the songs. He used to sample music. Now, under U.S. copyright law, you don't have to pay royalties under three conditions. If you're using a song for archival purposes, so if you are, taking a song and you're storing it at the Library of Congress, you don't have to pay royalties for that. If you are parodying a song, you don't need to pay copyright. So Weird Al technically doesn't have to pay any type of copyrights for the songs he parodies, because first of all, Weird Al's musicianship is through the roof. It's amazing. If you ever listen to any of his original songs, they're terrific. He's an exceptional musician on his own, and
he's a genius.
Oh, I love Weird Al, but he doesn't have to pay copyright. He doesn't have to pay royalties to the songs he parodies, but he always asks permission. And it's a point now for a lot of musicians. The joke was, if Weird Al asks you if he can parody your song, you've made it.
Oh yeah.
And the third thing is education. If you're using a song for educational purposes, you don't have to pay royalties. So Adam Neely's channel on YouTube, he's actually moved to, I think it's called Supernova. It's a new streaming site for music for educators who have YouTube channels. And Supernova's priority is protecting the educators from these copyright bots.
It's not YouTube.
Great.
It ain't YouTube. Yeah,
it ain't YouTube.
It ain't YouTube. So he was on YouTube for a long time. He still is. You can see his videos. But he would take these songs and he would sample them and he would break them down. And he actually did one on what happens if you auto-tune a Led Zeppelin song. If you auto-tune Robert Plant's voice. And it's weird, man. It's weird when you auto-tune it. I like Robert Plant doing all the blues stuff, right? Yeah. But he would take samples of the songs, and then he started getting flagged for it. And the final straw for him was the Katy Perry case for
Dark Horse.
Dark Horse, yes. What do you guys know about Dark Horse?
I know that it was a song called Dark Horse. That's about it.
Yeah.
So she was sued, and she lost. She was sued because the main, the melody thing point for Dark Horse is, it's literally this da 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 da. I'm probably out of tune because I can't have any reference, but it's just those three notes. Yeah. Those, played down. It's a descending scale, right?
Of course.
She was sued by a Christian rap artist whose name I don't remember, and that's fine. And he said she stole that from me. She stole it from me. I did that. And you listen to his song, yeah, he's got a little beep, 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 beep. He's rapping out Jesus and whatever, No offense, I'm a Christian. It's fine. But she lost. The judge was like, oh, she plagiarized that. But here's the thing. Is that copyrightable? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 notes, right? In the descending scale. Is that constitute the melody? Is that the melody of the song? Or is it just a line? What is it? And can you copyright it?
That's the issue. I think there's an issue. I work in municipal government, and this is an issue that I see all the time, is that laws are always 30, 40, 50 years behind where technology or society is, right?
Especially with music.
Especially with music. Music is a great example of it, because these laws, a lot of them were written when sheet music was the way that music was sold, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of our, ASCAP started in 1914?
Yes.
To protect
Sheet music,
sheet music writers,
like
like
pianos.
Tin Pan Alley guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you have archaic laws, and I think that's the issue. Is we're looking at a system that is not inerrant and has a lot of flaws, and has not made the proper like it hasn't been given time to catch up or given the push to catch up, because I don't think you can give it as much time as possible. You need to have some sort of reform or policy reform in order to protect the interests of the creators, because right now what it's doing, and like we mentioned it earlier, the people that are going after these lawsuits have money or are going after artists or labels with money, doesn't necessarily protect the art in the way that it should.
Well, that's the interesting thing with law too. And I'm in a paralegal program, and I'm not at all like a law student, but I'm learning a lot, and I love it, and I'm really enthusiastic about it. And I've been reading a lot. But one thing one of my instructors is telling us is that the law is whatever you can convince a judge it is.
Yep.
And that's what the job of a lawyer is. You're trying to influence the interpretation of the existing laws. Laws, too, by and large, are reactive. The old phrase is laws are written in blood, right? Something happens, it's bad, you got to write a law to prevent it from happening again. If you're too proactive with your laws, it can come off as oppressive and over the top. But when you have new technologies coming out, the people who write these laws, they have to try to anticipate all the negative outcomes from certain things. We could talk about some of the new technologies in the automotive industry coming out right now, and some of the new frontiers we're experiencing. But when it comes to music, for the last 10 years on the digital world, it's been kind of the Wild West. Napster, a big experiment in piracy and streaming.
We're right now with NFTs.
Oh my goodness,
man! It's just money laundering.
That's all it is.
It's just money laundering.
It's money laundering with Google Drive, is what it is.
Yeah.
And JPEGs. I will store your JPEG on a Dropbox for $7,000,
dude. It's awful.
A certified Dropbox.
I think it's a sad misuse of blockchain technology, which is fascinating technology. But anyway, like with copyright laws, it was there to protect the artist, to make sure, and it still is by and large. But the precedent has to be set correctly. And with the Katy Perry case with Dark Horse, she lost. This is just eight. These are 4 notes in 4/8 notes, right? That if, again, that little progression has existed for hundreds of years, going back to however long humans have been able to hum.
As long as like our vocal cords have been around,
Dude,
that's been around.
It's it's on a pentatonic scale. Pentatonic scales have been we've found like a flute in Germany that's like 5,000 years old, and it plays a pentatonic scale.
That's Katy Perry, Dark Horse.
Yeah, dude, some German caveman was playing Dark Horse, and but she lost. And why? Is it because that these are single notes and it's not a chord, so you can copyright it? Why is that the difference? Why is this something he can copyright? Why did he win? Now, eventually, the case was appealed, and he lost the case, and Katy Perry won. But here's the thing. Before it went to appeal, Adam Neely, the YouTube educator, right, released a video explaining the case, defending Katy Perry and Warner Music, who at the time, and I think they still do, own her catalog. They flagged his video, and they got it taken down.
Of course they did.
Okay, here's the thing. I think I know the 2 people responsible for it, and I can tell you, from my short time there, they hate doing it. But they have to.
Imagine. Yeah.
So let's come back and talk about this a little more after a quick break. Hey, do you guys like chocolate?
I do.
I love chocolate.
Monica, you like chocolate?
Of course.
Well, a couple of shows ago, I mentioned chocolate and how, we have a responsibility to find ethical, fair trade chocolate. And, well, recently some big chocolate companies got into some trouble for using a little fun ancient invention called slavery. So we've had to find...
Child slavery.
Oh, child slavery, the specific brand of slavery. But Leo has a solution for us. Leo, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
I'd like to introduce y'all to Tony's Choco Lonely. Choco Lonely.
Oh, man, Tony's chocolate.
And from their mission statement, chocolate is one of the happiest products there are. But the realities hidden within the cocoa industry are not so sweet. Today, there are 1.56 million cases of illegal child labor and 30,000 cases of modern slavery on cocoa farms in West Africa. This is the result of unequally divided cocoa supply chain. So we said that we weren't going to have chocolate until there was an ethical sourcing of chocolate. I think we should give our business
to Tony's Choco Lonely.
Tony's Choco Lonely.
Oh, let's look up some chocolate flavors. Ooh, dark chocolate, cocoa cookie, citrusy caramel.
Mm-hmm.
They have milk caramel cookie chocolate, dark milk chocolate, milk hazelnut.
Delicious.
Oh, dude, these are 6.35 ounces for $5.95. That's actually pretty good.
That is a deal.
Not bad at all. Cool. I think I'm going to buy some of Tony's Choco Lonely. Monica, do you like chocolate?
Well, luckily the dark chocolate flavors you listed, I looked and they're vegan, so that's
Whoa.
Yeah.
me.
Everyone's needs are covered.
Yes. So
Hot diggity daffodil.
so we can eat chocolate. We can also contribute into ending child slavery, and we can have delicious flavors.
Truly guilt-free. And you could design your own wrapper too. Just another cool little flavor. Go to tonyschocolonely.com, folks, for all your guilt-free chocolate needs.
Tony's Choco Lonely. Get it now.
Welcome back from that quick break we took. Whether or not there was an ad there, I haven't decided yet. We'll figure something out.
There was an ad, we should place an ad for either Adam Neely or Dark Horse, the new song by Katy Perry. That song's already like five. I feel like Katy Perry is like contemporary, but just it goes to show my disrespect of time and its effect on me.
She's still relevant. She's still releasing stuff. She's not as relevant as she used to be. I hit my son's toy piano.
What was that? Just can he be the in studio applause for like a sitcom? Like,
yeah, there it is.
Hey, that's copywritten. He can't play that.
Yeah, right.
Oliver, god damn it.
Tritones are copywritten by the devil.
Monetized.
Well, here's the thing too, though. Like, you have to consider, like, she will, Katy Perry will get the brunt of the blame for that type of lawsuit. But like, did she write that song entirely? Who owns the catalog?
Most of the time it's usually like a producer and then her and then maybe one other person in a room, and then the producer's just kind of trying to give her stuff that he's worked on, and they kind of just collaborate and work out little bits there.
I've seen my fair share of Taylor Swift documentaries, and you're right, Adam. There's the talent sits in front of a $5,000 U87 Neumann, and they just sit there, and the producer's like, "Hey, do something over this."
Yeah. I mean,
basically,
that's how. Look at it, entertainment.
Hits are made, baby.
Well, yeah, like all you have to do is suggest one word, and you'll get a songwriting credit. And I just looked it up. 6 people wrote this song.
Oh yeah.
One of whom is Max Martin, and if you don't know who Max Martin is, or Carl Sandburg, he is like, along with Pharrell Williams, 2 of the most important songwriters in the last 20 years. They've written everything in pop music. And her producer at the time was Dr. Luke.
Ooh, that's fun. That's a fun one.
Nice.
We can talk about him with
We can do a whole podcast on
with Robin Thicke and Dr. Luke, man.
That is, oh man, that is a symptom of a bigger ill that is a malady over not only music but all over the entertainment industry, and it's predatory. But
Perceived power and predatory power.
yummy. That's why we got into music, yo.
Isn't
man.
that why?
Right?
Okay.
I want perceived power.
Here's the thing too, like what you want perceived. I did too. Oh no. Here's the thing with music too. My boss and I made an interesting observation. It's not really an observation, but we talked about like the true value of music thanks to streaming has really come out. Because you hear stories like Led Zeppelin flying around in a private jet that the label owns, and like all the pop stars from the 60s and 70s and even the 80s like were just treated like royalty, and
Yeah.
that's happening not so much anymore.
What were you gonna say, Adam?
No, I don't remember.
The labels we were talking about, rock stars flying around in private jets.
Oh yeah, the labels don't have to pay any money for anybody they don't have to pay as much money for their artists anymore. They're doing all the marketing for themselves now.
Mhm.
So there's not really a reason. All the labels really have to do is do a little push, maybe a couple mastering sessions.
They
And
have the
that's about it.
distribution.
they
Yeah.
can't afford to spend as much money because were you guys in were we all in Bambi Moe's class?
Yeah.
Do
Yep.
you remember when John Hartman, comedian Phil Hartman's brother, came in?
Was
He
it really?
Yeah, that's Phil Hartman's brother.
Oh, I did not know that.
He even talked
Oh.
about Phil Hartman too. He was like talking about how funny his brother was, and it was a really good class. But
I was there. He was
Remember?
manager for the Eagles, right?
yeah, no, he's a big music manager.
Oh,
Dude's amazing.
okay.
We actually got to chat with him afterwards too. He's a really cool guy.
Mhm.
But he made a great point. There were two things that I took away from that lecture, and the first one was, there are four legs of the music industry. The strongest leg is music publishing and copyright because it's the
Yep.
federally incentivized way to make money off of your music. ASCAP and BMI are nonprofits. They're regulated by the federal government. That's how you make your money and you keep your money, is through that. You own your publishing. The other stable way is equipment. You're not going to get rich in equipment unless you like invent something totally new and game breaking. But
Mhm.
Adam, we've all been to NAMM.
Oh yeah.
It's a huge market. People are always going to need instruments. They're always going to need something to project it. You want to go to get a stable job in the music industry, you go work in the equipment side of it.
And
There's-
that's not even the professional level. That's the amateur. That's the mom and dad that want to buy their little Jimmy a guitar, and they're
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's stability there. You're not going to get rich, or you may not become famous. But like I said, unless you invent something new.
Les Paul did.
Les
Yeah.
Paul did. True. But he also
And
was at a
Gibson's
time
not
when
there anymore, right?
solid body electric guitars were relatively new. It was still, Gibson is still there technically. And then there's touring, and with the unless it's a global pandemic, you're pretty safe if you can work for a venue that's going to let people perform and show their music. That's generally fairly safe. And the least stable, the weakest leg of the music industry, are the record labels. Because that's selling the music. You have to convince people to buy the music. You have to predict what people are going to like. And the best information you have on that is what people spend money on. So there was a big thing back in, even 15 years ago, where people were complaining a lot about, the crap on the radio, whatever. And this is when digital music was becoming a big thing, and people were pirating their music because music was so expensive. You still had the same prices on the albums, $10 a record, right? $10 an album. And the band would see maybe 2% of that total sale.
Yeah.
The record label took everything else and spent it on marketing, like Adam said.
Mhm.
So when you buy an album, it registers an ISBN code. The labels get to see what's being bought, and that's the music that they put the money into. Who isn't pirating music back in those days? What's the age group?
Shoot, I don't know. I remember when Napster came out, the age group that I saw pirating was like 12 to 18,
Anyone with a computer.
basically.
But it was mostly teenagers and older who are pirating.
Mhm.
Kids.
Exactly.
Kids, teenagers, preteens, they were the ones who were buying the music because they didn't have access. So that's why you were hearing just this stuff for kids on the radio all the time. Now
Mhm.
with streaming, they don't have to charge $10 for an album. Now they pay micro pennies per stream. They don't have that money coming in. So the labels now had a challenge too with piracy. And this is something John Hartman said. The challenge that the labels have to face is how to make money off of free music. And I think they solved it. I think they figured it out with streaming.
Yeah.
They made it cheaper.
Well, the market share, I mean, just off of the numbers, like it's the old 80-20 percentage of like 20% of the creators are making 80% of the profit. I think it's even more. I think it's like 95-5.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
5% of the people creating music, which are major label, are making 95% of the revenue share of streaming, and 95% of the people of the music out there is making 5% of the revenue streaming. And we can go
stream.
from the stream.
Mhm.
We can go on a whole.
Oh, yeah.
We can do
Yes.
a whole podcast on
Mhm.
streams. And I love Spotify. I make a playlist like every single week. I have my music on Spotify. I am conscious of the fact that I'm not going to make my livelihood from my music being streamed. Period.
Yeah.
And like, and if some sort of pipe dream and miracle happens where I do get 1 million streams, that's still only like what, 10 grand,
Maybe.
maybe if that, for labels to kind of corner the market in streaming, because there's payola doesn't exist, wink wink, like on paper. The majority of the gatekeepers on Spotify specifically, which by the way, all our musicians, all our young musicians that are making music, listeners out there, get on Amazon Music now and start
Mhm.
building your marketing and your platform on there, because if Amazon has any sort of track record, I think Amazon Music is going to be huge in the next 2 to 5 years.
Whether or
I
not
hope
you
so.
agree with the morality of that happening, it's the truth.
I don't, but you gotta take your pig to market if you want to get some
Yeah.
bacon, baby.
How much is your statement worth?
Yeah.
Adam, why do you copyright your music?
Because I'm naive. Basically, that's the
No,
only
but,
reason I copyright my
Same
music.
here, brother.
I
I love it.
What's naive about that?
Because I'm losing money rather than making it. Just because
Okay.
to get the amount of streams. Well, I'm not losing money, but I'm doing okay. But it's just to get the amount of streams that you need and the amount of support that you need to like actually make money it's just too much time.
Mhm.
And so it's just kind of like, oh, I'm just kind of building my little memoir and music to myself and trying
Yeah,
to put it out there,
Which is another conversation of like your music, regardless of the commercial, because again, to the topic of commodification of things that should not be commodified, music is a language. It's your legacy on earth, Adam. Like
Exactly.
it's going to outlive you regardless of how, you could die tomorrow, knock on wood. I hope you're here for the next 75, 80 years.
Only
but
80 though, no more. 81.
more
I'm
than
like
80.
Adam.
Exactly, right?
I'm coming
I gotta
after
go.
you, motherfucker.
January
80
18th,
years.
2022, 10:32 p.m. We gave you a timer.
But I mean, like that's kind of the conversation that a lot of musicians. I had to have that conversation with myself, and it put me in a better space creatively to understand that like I'm never going to be sued for my music because or I'm never going to go. I mean, that'd be awesome if someone ripped off one of my songs, because then I would sue the shit out of them. Back on that conversation, like we were saying, like if you were put in that position, if someone blatantly ripped off one of your songs, Adam, would you? And it was Warner Brothers, it's Katy fucking Perry, and she ripped off one of your songs, like word for word, note for note. You're goddamn right, you'd be fucking suing her.
Oh yeah, and it wouldn't be the money. I mean, don't get me wrong; it'd mostly be the money.
It
But
would be the
it would-
money.
It'd be the money. Come on.
It'd be the money, Adam.
Well,
But the
that's
free marketing.
Yes,
The free marketing that comes along with that.
to make your money, to get
Adam,
what's
you made a-
owed you.
You made
It's
a really
about
good
money.
point right there, Adam. You said free marketing, and I want to point out free market, brother. It is America. It is capitalism. The free fucking market. Sue Katy Perry. She's a bitch.
Oh,
Just kidding. I love Katy
Joe Rogan
Perry.
podcast all of a sudden.
I love. No, that was a grift. That was a joke.
That was good. I like Katy Perry too. Okay, that's a good point you just made though. That's where things are so different now, is if you're going to be a musician and you want to do that, you can't make your livelihood off of it anymore. That's what streaming has done. And for better or worse, it's increased our access to music, and it's made it easier for us to release our music. But the cost we had to pay is we're not doing cocaine on private jets anymore.
God
Well,
damn it!
Yeah.
I wish we can go back to that.
Right?
Harry Styles is doing
So-
cocaine on private jets. Harry Styles is.
Yeah.
Okay,
I would like to think
unless
so.
unless you're a pop artist, but here's the thing. Again,
Or a TikTok star.
Harry Styles probably doesn't own the copyrights to any of the songs that he sings. Yeah, he's living it up, right? He's making his money. He's making bank because he's a performer. He's an artist. But how lucky do you have to be if you're not like in a Hollywood entertainment family, right? If you're don't have nepotism on your side, how lucky do you have to be to become a pop star? Pretty lucky. And you have to be pretty talented. Creativity notwithstanding. Can you perform the music that they want you to perform? Yes, they will pay you for that. But people like, Paul Simon and even like John Prine, they kept their money because they copyrighted their songs. But they weren't like, they turned into these huge phenomenons because their music is so damn good. Throw Leonard Cohen in there as well. Leonard Cohen actually didn't want to be a musician. He wanted to be a poet. He's a poet. He did not have any interest. But nowadays, it's so much more realistic for musicians. And like Leo said, I work at Cal State Fullerton. I don't make music to pay my bills. I have a wife. I have a kid. I've got a little house that I got to pay rent on, and it's not realistic. I'm doing this show. I don't make money off this show. We don't make money off this show.
Nope.
But why do we do it? Because it's fun. It's easy to release. Same thing with all the music we write. So we want to protect our ability to be as creative as possible. And that's why copyright law is so important. And we have to understand the double-edged sword that it really, really is. These precedents are important. And the Led Zeppelin case actually overturned the precedents set by Dark Horse and Blurred Lines by those cases. Substantial similarity needs to be a little bit more objective, ultimately. And you can even go back to the Verve's Bittersweet Symphony, which I learned Keith Richards and Mick Jagger had no idea that lawsuit was occurring when it was. Their lawyer, infamous Alan Klein, who screwed the Beatles out of their catalog, he initiated that lawsuit without consulting with them. They had no idea until they started seeing the royalty checks, and they actually like the song. They like Bittersweet Symphony. So I used to be angry at like Mick Jagger and Keith Richards about that, but until I learned like they had no idea. They're just like, I guess we're getting songwriting credits for this. But either way, we don't make money. We're not going to be signed to a big label one day. Indie pop isn't even indie pop anymore. Indie pop is just Warner Music Group, right? Which say what you want about the evils of the big record labels, the big three. It doesn't matter. But realistically, if we want to make money off of our music, we have to have the income to what we write. You have to copyright it. You have to own those lyrics. You have to own that melody that you worked hard on. That's your integrity, is in your creativity and how you express it. And if you don't have the money to spend, I think it's like $50 a song or $100 an album if you register with the U.S. Copyright Office. If you just want to protect yourself from plagiarism, the old school way to do it was to write it on a piece of paper, sign it, date it, mail it to yourself. Because then it goes through the Federal Postal Service. They stamp it, it's dated, it's timed. If someone steals your song after you release it, you don't have a copyright, you can sue them and use that. Like you can protect yourself with that.
What's has law caught up to like digital stamp marks? Like a lot of songs with ISRC codes or the digital stamps that you have on recording,
Oh, the watermarks.
that session
Mhm.
files, like does that not hold up in court? I feel like that
It
would.
depends. It has to be. It has to be a finished product, I believe,
Yes.
because it has to be tangible, right?
Hmm.
Well, tangible nowadays is
Well,
wave file.
yeah,
and
tangible
for-
could be
No. Tangible as in like physical.
like a CD.
Or digital recording. Yes.
That's tangible. A
But
digital recording.
If you were just singing it out loud, not recording it or stamping it or printing it in some way, digitally or otherwise, you can't copyright that. You can just be, I was
That's
just
not what I'm
singing.
talking about. But if you were to do a voice memo and you recorded a song,
Mhm.
there's a digital stamp. There's a timestamp on when you record that in your voice memo that you can't get rid of.
Yes, they would compare that to when the other person claims they wrote the song. And if you have that, you said, look, that's proof. That is that you are putting that in a tangible means. You are recording it and dating it and associating a code with it. ISRCs are interesting because I think it's Sound Exchange, which is an independent organization that assigns an ISRC code to these songs. Man, American copyright law is so crazy. We're the only country in the world that has 4 PROs. We have BMI,
No.
ASCAP,
Yeah.
CSAC,
Cheesecake.
CSAC,
Mhm.
and GMR. GMR Global Music Rights, they're kind of like the country's sub-publisher. They deal with the international. They deal with the international PROs. Now, the interesting thing is, too, is other foreign countries, they only have one performance right organization, and it's for the whole country. Like in Germany, it's GEMA. And the reason they only have one is because these performance rights organizations, they are regulated by the government. We have 2. CSAC's independent because they're for profit. My boss, he's a CSAC songwriter. So if your music doesn't get plays, they kick you out of CSAC because you're not generating income for them. With ASCAP and BMI, I think you pay a yearly fee, or like $50 or something. But they're nonprofit, and the reason we have 2 is because ASCAP, when it was formed, was was white people only. It was only white music. So the black artists needed they wanted a way to publish their own music, so they established BMI. So that's why we have 2, because ASCAP has fairly racially divisive history there, but they've come to terms.
I feel like that's the answer to a lot of reasons why the way things are in America. Well, why is it like that? Racism.
We're dicks in this country.
How come that's broken? Well,
racism. It's true.
So that's why we have.
Why are there 4
fucking
bathrooms at this
4
restaurant?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Racist.
Well,
Racism.
equality. That's why. See, CSAC. See how I CSAC that?
Oh, but
I think so. Copyright, as far as protecting the integrity of the music, the musician, and just creativity as an abstract, like sign me up. It's great. The other end of that, though, because you said it is a double-edged sword, the danger of that is that when you have court cases like Dark Horse, like
Blurred Lines.
Where's the other one? The Tom Petty Won't Back Down and Sam Smith one. I don't think that ever went to court. He just signed over some royalties.
I think they settled out of court
to songwriting credit. The danger of that is that you could have a court case completely flip what our definition. I guess that's the beauty of law, and the beauty, like the way that we're approaching copyright is kind of a very egalitarian, equal way of saying, like, we want to protect the integrity of creativity.
Yes.
But on the same hand, there's people that work for major labels, conglomerates, that want to protect the bottom line, that will fight for the other side of that.
No, they have to.
Yeah.
But
They have to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
That's where we were talking about, like, just create music to create music.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Create it. You don't expect to get rich off of it. But own your rights to it. Just keep that. Consider it like an investment fund in your own creativity. If I'm being honest, spend a little bit of money so you can keep the rights to your songwriting, to what you wrote. While we're talking about this too, I think it's worth bringing up, maybe not diving too deep, but it's worth talking about a little bit, how Disney is influencing copyright law. And something funny I noticed, I was watching Fantasia 2000 with my son the other day, because it's music and it's colorful, and I shouldn't be showing that to a 2-year-old. You know, it's like stimulation. Well, George Gershwin, actually, they used
Rhapsody in Blue.
And one thing I noticed in the credits is it says Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin, and then in parentheses it says with permission. I was like, because Warner Music Group, they maintain the Gershwin's music, the Gershwin catalog. But the owners of the catalog, remember, neither George or Ira Gershwin had children. So it's like distant cousins, like third removed from the Gershwins, who maintain that catalog. And they are extremely difficult to get around. They can't to get a song to use from the Gershwins, which, if you know anything about the Gershwins' music, is American music through its core. That is jazz. That is
Porgy and Bess. It's Tim and Alley. It's
Swing.
Symphony.
It's the basis of modern music that we listen to now outside of classical music. The Gershwins were. Why isn't it public domain if it's such a strong part of American culture across the board? Because the catalog is still owned. It's so difficult to get a song from the Gershwin catalog. I think it's the Beach Boys, the Beatles. Well, not the Beatles anymore, but it's the Beach Boys, the Gershwins, and I think Paul Simon are the three of the more difficult catalogs to get songs from. I think for any song, if you want to use a Beach Boy song, it's like $10,000. Can you imagine spending $10,000 to use Kokomo for anything?
I'd be down. If I had the money, I'd
even for a joke.
I feel like if you hit up Brian Wilson and be like, "Hey, can we use Kokomo?" He'd be like, "You can have it for free."
Oh, he hates Kokomo.
He hates that song.
He wanted nothing to do with it. I have a whole thing about Kokomo that I'm not going to go into. Oh my god! But one day I really want to, about John Stamos and how I feel bad for John Stamos.
Does this have to do with Full House?
Kinda. I think I sent it to you, Leo.
You did.
I think I sent it to both of you. Yeah, you heard my thing. But anyway, so the Gershwins don't. It's like distant cousins who are in control of this catalog. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. But they are very, very, very demanding with who gets to use their music. And here's the thing. If you can perform a song live, that's fine. You can go out and perform a song, and people can, if you're being recorded. But if you're performing any song that's copyrighted by someone else, make sure you're playing it by memory. Because if they see you looking at sheet music, boom, right there, they can get you.
Really?
Yeah, I had to actually send out a cease and desist letter to a Barry White cover band because the people who maintained his catalog they saw that the musicians on stage were using sheet music. I was really bummed out about it because Barry White's daughter doesn't maintain the catalog, and she was on stage with him, and they were all performing. And I had to send out a cease and desist. It was kind of.
You were that guy, huh?
But Disney pays millions of dollars for lobbyists to copyright laws so they can keep hold of Mickey. Now, this is more trademark than
2024, right?
2024 is technically when Mickey is eligible to be entered into the public domain again.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, Adam.
Hell no.
They're going to add another 10 years onto copyright law. So what does that mean for a lot of existing old music? Whoever owns the catalog, because I think right now it's lifetime of the creator
70
plus
years.
70 years. Disney's going to make that 80 years, and they're going to spend good money to do that. So, okay, Disney gets to keep Mickey, but at the same time, eventually Congress is going to wise up and stop letting them do that. So what does Disney do instead? What have they been doing to get around that?
Will they, though?
I
What
bet they're gonna add 70
Will
years.
Congress?
they're
wise
already
up?
doing it. Disney's already doing it.
Yeah,
They're
they're gonna add
rebooting.
70 years.
They're rebooting their movies.
Yeah.
They're reestablishing the copyright on it. So I think the new one is this year. Winnie the Pooh entered the public domain, right? Not Disney's Winnie the Pooh, the original Winnie the Pooh,
Yeah.
the A.A. Milne version of Winnie the Pooh.
Mhm.
If you show a red shirt and a yellow bear, you're paying
Yep,
fines.
done.
If you show a brown bear and call it Winnie the Pooh, you're fine. Disney tried to copyright Dia de los Muertos for Coco. Which-
No.
Yeah, okay, so here's the thing about that
Oh.
too.
Yeah.
I feel like Disney just, when they have a new idea, they just throw everything to the wall and see what's going to stick. Let's copyright anything we can. And I think with Dia de los Muertos, I think that was just an instance where they're like, let's see if we can do it. And obviously you can't, and it got rejected. But there is a thing. They pay good money to get people to just try and copyright anything that could possibly be copyrighted. The word I don't know, man.
That practice is followed by, so when Biden and Harris were running their campaign, say 2 years, a year before that or 6 months before that, when people buy domains for BidenHarris.com or HarrisBiden.com, they'll
Mhm.
buy swaths, thousands of domains with
Mhm.
little letter changes. The same thing with how Disney does their copyright. They'll buy literally the boilerplate of any iteration of what .com, .org, .gov, just so that, because there's people that will snatch those up and resell them back and be like, oh yeah, you can have Biden Harris 2022 or 2020
For like 10 grand.
yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Um,
I have a friend whose father does that.
I
Oh man.
dabbled in it. It's fun, but it's like
dabbled in it. It's like a hobby. Oh yeah. I just put bananaappleeaters.com. Domains.
the conversation we were talking about is the commodification of things that I don't think, me personally, should be. I mean, there's that fine line between being able to exploit something for profit,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, but also commodifying to the sense of the umpteenth degree. We're talking about legacy corporations like Disney. I mean, I hate to say it, but like a lot of these beloved musicians, their catalogs are the arbiters are not the beloved musicians that you love. It's, Suits, right? So the commodification of things like music, and for us, it's as much as, because music is such a big integral part of our lives as it is for a lot of our listeners, as it is for a lot of people in the world, to commodify something in a way that there's so much red tape around it, where the creative process of it becomes tainted. That's the danger of it for me, because some people argue that we're going to get to the point where water is going to be commodified. If not, it already is.
Already is.
Exactly.
But in a sense that like water is life sustaining, and some would argue that maybe music is too, but like in a more urgent sense, water is. That's the argument that I think that we're having here, is like, we're talking about something that is just innately human,
Mhm.
and innately something that everybody does. If you were to leave a church, drop a group of people off on an island and come back in 20 years, one of the things that they would have is music, but we've gotten to the point where like the fine line between exploiting something to create a profit in the free market, and then taking that all the way to the end of the line and doing what Disney's doing, where
Mhm.
you can't, that you farted in sort of the tune of I Wish Upon a Star, and we're going to sue.
Only if you were reading sheet music, right?
Yeah, if you have sheet music near your ass, you got to be careful.
Toilet sheet.
Ba-dum-bum.
Toilet
Adam,
paper sheet.
At what point is
Bad.
music? Do you consider music a luxury or a necessity?
Definitely a luxury, I gotta admit, because I've been in that position where you gotta work 12 to 16-hour days and you can't listen to music. You can't, well, not that you can't listen, but if you have the time to listen, to it, that's a luxury, let alone being able to play it, and then on top of that, being able to upload it and stream it, and then make graphic art for it, and then being able to market it, and then going off and then doing a TikTok about it, and then hiring other people to do other things, and blah 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 blah. Instagram this, all of it's a luxury. It's just how much are you willing to give to that luxury?
So, music, would you consider it an important part of your culture, whatever culture you ascribe to?
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. I would say that culturally, it definitely has it has an influence, but it's not.
Is music an inevitable outcome of your culture? I mean, just in the
I don't.
royal cultural in general.
I think in general, it's definitely a variable of our tribalism, and the people that are around us and the people that are closest to us, the ones that we're gonna play music with. Yeah, it's gonna have an effect. It's gonna bring people together, family together, friends together, and it's just gonna it builds your social dynamic and your social awareness of other people.
Now, is that considered a luxury or is that a necessity to survive?
Oh, I think that when I think about playing in a band and being aware of small gestures that people have, or being able to see your face, or oh, I know you're gonna go up to the fifth fret, so in my head as a bassist I'm gonna go and play something that I know around there that's gonna sound good with it. And I think that goes back to our basic biology as hunters, and trying to be aware of our surrounding areas, being aware of who's around us, dangers and things like that. Playing a wrong note would be a danger,
Yeah.
unless
I
it was
think-
jazz or something like that.
Would you agree with the statement music is neither, but the purpose can either be a luxury or a necessity, how it's utilized?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think that it could be a necessity sometimes,
I
because
think
sometimes I can think about when people are depressed sometimes, and you can listen to your favorite band or your favorite artist, and as you're in that depressed state, that music can pull you out
Mhm.
and give you another view on life.
Yeah.
and music changes people for the better and for the worse sometimes, but normally it's for the better. I think that, especially being able to hear positive music, and being able to hear music that's uplifting and hopeful, it really is a necessity in the long run. I mean, obviously I don't think it's going to be as important as, or in front of, water, food, breathing, a home, but it's pretty damn close to the top 10 things that you're gonna need in life.
Yeah. I think too, in this country, when we consider the basic human rights for the pursuit of happiness, like
Yeah.
music is a big part in that. And I think because of that alone, the ability to create music and to be protected in that creation is necessary, and it needs to be protected. And I think because dude, up until you were just talking, everything you just said, I was like, oh yeah, music is a luxury, money, money, money. But it isn't. But it's also not a necessity. It just is. It's a byproduct of how we live, I guess.
It's a luxury,
Mm-hmm.
and a luxury. That's
I lean more on the. I agree with a lot of what you said, Adam. Of looking at music as a consumption of I'm working 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. I don't have time. Maybe I'm listening to music passively in the background, but it doesn't have the same effect of you sitting down and having a song being able to transport you and change your mood. But looking at music as more of a utility and a byproduct of humanity, in a way, our communication, music is communication. If you were to break it down, we're communicating. Aside from the ability to make money off of it, and the way music is consumed, music has always been communication before it was consumption. I lean more towards music being a necessity, towards not specifically for individuals, but for humanity and humankind in general.
It is definitely a necessity when it comes to communication and camaraderie. But yeah, I think basically anything that has to do with our ability to be human and to create makes not just music, but other art forms where we can express ourselves in whatever way that doesn't hurt people without consent. I think that's important. And the tangible expression of that should be protected. And I think we need to exercise that protection as musicians, especially now that it's so easy to create and release things. But,
That's the danger of some copyright, though. Like, I feel that since music is community and communication, and it's bound up in culture, a lot of the musical language that we currently have has a history from slavery, from disenfranchised people groups who still use those musical languages to communicate. And like, just even look at, like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the show Atlanta, the Donald Glover show.
yes.
Music is an integral part of inner city Atlanta Black hip hop culture. And that's kind of like a communication key. And that's just one microcosm of a subculture of America. There's thousands of them.
Mm-hmm.
When you set these precedences as far as creating laws that kind of box in or keep certain people groups out from allowing them to engage in that form of human communication, that's where it gets a little hairy for me. And that's where I think music needs to be seen more of a necessity as part of human language than it is a commodity and a luxury.
And that's why I think the objective aspects of copyright are more important than the subjective aspects of it. You know,
Agreed.
and that's both the strength and the weakness of the law. It has to be objective, but it's like, as we've seen in these lawsuits, that can easily be turned around regardless of whether it's right or wrong. Final thoughts, Adam.
Well, I guess my final thoughts are, as the as the laws progress and, we have our give and take with the corporate world and copyright and stuff, that the bounds that we as musicians are going to be put into actually help music grow rather than recede. And I think that's my biggest hope for the future of the artists and the producers that are going to come,
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Leo.
I think laws need to serve society in the sense that they need to match up with where technology is and the way that people are engaging in those mediums. So, like, I agree with Adam, like, laws and copyright laws specifically need to protect, but also allow the creative freedom that has allowed music to be what it is throughout American history.
Yeah. I think what we can do as musicians, and to anyone listening to this who's a creative person in general, do your research. Read up on what's protected, what you are protected by with what you can create. And you can even use those as a little bit of a guideline as to how you create if you really need to. But know you are protected. You should be careful. And I think the more knowledgeable you are of current trends and the things you are paying homage to, the safer you will be. With all that in mind, you can protect yourself. And if you're confident in that and you know that things have your back, and thank goodness for the Stairway to Heaven lawsuit, because the results of that show that we are protected and it will come around. And just be careful, be original, but keep creating. Don't stop and use the system. It's just,
I want to play off that, and I would go as far to say as fuck the system.
Rebel.
The law is what you can convince the judge it is. Anyway, well, this was Just One Song. My name is Kurt.
I'm Leandro.
And Adam.
Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next time.